I thought becoming a dad would be the happiest moment of my life. Then my best friend announced his pregnancy too, and I hated it. I feel like a terrible person for feeling this way. I know these thoughts don't make me look good, and they certainly don't make me feel good. But I've been carrying them around for a while now, and I think I just need to be honest about it, if only to myself. So, here's the context. I have this friend. We've been close for years, bonded over our shared interests, love for tech, photography, gaming, design, you name it. On the surface, our friendship is solid. But underneath, there's something that gnaws at me. Something I haven't quite said out loud until now. My friend comes from a more financially secure background than I do. That's never been an issue in itself. I'm not bitter about someone having more money. But over the years, it's created this strange, silent rivalry, one I never signed up for but seem to be stuck in anyway. Every time I get something I'm proud of, whether it's a new piece of tech or a hobby I've poured time into, he shows up with a newer, flashier, better version of the same thing. I remember when I finally built my dream PC. It was months of budgeting and researching the right parts. I was proud of it. Then, not long after, he casually shows up with a custom build that cost twice as much, with specs that crush mine. When I finally treated myself to a great DSLR camera and a beautiful lens for my birthday, he showed up with the newer model a few weeks later, and a better lens. I didn't say anything. I smiled. I even took pictures of him using it. But it stung. It's not like he's rubbing it in my face, he doesn't brag. But he knows what I have, and without fail, his version is always upgraded. It's hard not to feel like I'm constantly being overshadowed. My wife and I have joked about it over the years. It started as lighthearted, a way to make sense of this weird pattern. When he was single and I was happily married, we used to joke, hey, at least I've got one thing he doesn't have. So when he started dating a woman who had a 5-year-old daughter, the joke continued. Oh wow, he had to one-up us again, skip the baby stage and go straight to parenthood. I know how that sounds. Petty. Immature. But we never meant harm by it. It was just this quiet way of dealing with the constant feeling of being outdone. Then, when my wife and I decided to try for a baby, we half-joked again. Watch him show up with twins when we announce. We laughed about it, but inside, I was already bracing myself. And sure enough, just a few weeks later, he told us they were expecting. Not twins, but still, the timing felt too perfect, too predictable. It's gotten to the point where I can't celebrate my own milestones without waiting for him to come in with something more impressive. And that's where the guilt kicks in hard. I'm not supposed to feel this way about a friend. He's never done anything explicitly wrong. He doesn't mock me. He's never said anything cruel. He's just living his life. But the emotional aftermath on my end makes me feel like the worst kind of person. I hate that this even bothers me. I should be able to be happy for him. I should be able to separate his wins from mine. But it's like living in someone's shadow, one they don't even know they're casting. I've started questioning whether this dynamic has always been there, or if it only emerged as we grew older and started measuring life in milestones: houses, careers, families, finances. I try to remind myself that life isn't a race, and people move at their own pace. But still, I can't shake the feeling that I'm always second best in my own story. What makes this harder is that he's genuinely a good person. He's kind, he's generous, he's thoughtful. I know he cares about me. That's what twists the knife deeper, because if he were a jerk, I could write it all off. But he's not. Which means all this jealousy. It's all on me. I feel ashamed of this bitterness. I try to bury it, to act like it's just silly banter between me and my wife. But the truth is, it's starting to eat away at the friendship. I find myself avoiding sharing my wins, or hesitating to talk about something I'm excited about, because what if he comes along and unintentionally overshadows it again? And that's the saddest part. I'm starting to pull back, and he doesn't even know why. I wish I could talk to him about it, but how do you say that without sounding like a resentful jerk? Hey man, can you stop being better at everything? That's not fair, and it's not who I want to be. So instead, I keep it to myself. I smile when he shares good news. I clap when he shows me his latest gadget. I tell him how lucky his daughter is to have him in her life. I do all the right things on the outside. But inside, I'm still wrestling with it. I don't know what the solution is. Maybe it's therapy. Maybe it's taking a hard look at my own self-worth and figuring out why I feel so diminished by someone else's success. Maybe it's learning to stop comparing. Maybe it's just growing up. Well, you read the title. When I knew I was going to be a dad, I was thrilled. Overjoyed. This was the start of a brand new chapter for me and my wife. Something we talked about, dreamed of, planned for. The moment we found out, we hugged, cried, and sat together quietly soaking in the gravity of it all. I called my parents, then her parents, then my best friend, him. I called him because we've always shared everything. I figured this was one of those milestones where I'd want him by my side. I thought maybe he'd come over. We'd have a drink, celebrate, joke about the kind of dads we'd be someday. I told him with the biggest smile on my face. And he seemed genuinely happy for me. His girlfriend chimed in with advice, told us what to expect, how pregnancy changes everything, even shared some apps she loved when her daughter was little. And then he said it. Well, he or she is going to have a little friend, I guess. I paused for a moment, confused. Then it clicked. They were expecting too. And I know how messed up it is that my first feeling was not joy, not happiness for him. It was disappointment. It was this sharp pang of jealousy that hit me right in the chest. Suddenly, what was a special, singular moment in my life became, yet again, something we shared. Another thing to add to the ever-growing list of coincidences in our lives. It sounds so petty when I say it out loud. I hate myself for it. I hate even admitting it to myself, let alone putting it in writing. But it's true. Deep down, I wanted this to be mine. Ours. I wanted to be the one who was doing something different for once, who had something first. And the worst part is, they weren't even trying. They weren't planning. It just happened. That's what they said. A surprise. Like the universe couldn't bear for me to have anything on my own. He didn't even have a stable relationship a year ago, and now here he is, house, stepdaughter, baby on the way. It's not that I think he's trying to copy me. I don't believe that. I'm not delusional. It's just that this keeps happening. Every damn time. New car? He gets a better one. New phone? He shows up with the latest model a week later. I finally get into photography. He's suddenly shooting with a lens twice as expensive. It's like my wins are never mine for long. And now, even my child's birth won't be. Since their announcement, I've withdrawn. I don't want to talk about the baby with him. I barely want to talk to him at all. He texts me baby memes, links to parenting YouTubers, asks what stroller we're getting. I just reply with one-word answers, or ignore him altogether. I know he senses it, but I can't pretend I'm okay with it. I'm not. My wife asked me why I've been quieter lately. I told her I'm just tired. Which is true, but not the full truth. The real reason? I feel robbed. Like I can't even enjoy this moment because I'm constantly comparing, constantly watching the narrative change from our special time to, well, looks like they're doing that too. And then came the ultrasound conversation. My wife and I had our first scan scheduled. I wasn't particularly excited about the image itself. I just wanted to know the baby was okay, that everything was progressing normally. That was what mattered to me. So when I mentioned to him that I was more concerned about the health in the picture, he said, jokingly maybe, that it sounded like I didn't care much. I snapped. That's the truth. I snapped inside. I didn't say anything back. I just nodded, said, yeah, and ended the conversation. Then I blocked him. No dramatic message, no explanation. I just couldn't do it anymore. It's been days now. He hasn't reached out again, though I'm sure he noticed. Maybe he's talking about it with his girlfriend. Maybe they're confused, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't told my wife either. I don't want her to think I'm this bitter, petty man stewing in resentment while we're supposed to be focusing on building a family. But the truth is, I feel like a terrible friend. I feel like an even worse person. Because none of this is really his fault. He didn't ask for any of this to happen the way it did. He didn't choose to have more money, or for us to have similar interests. He didn't plan to have a baby at the same time. He didn't do anything wrong, aside from maybe one thoughtless comment. But I can't help the way I feel. I can't help this invisible scoreboard in my head, the one that keeps tallying each instance where he won or topped me, even if unintentionally. I hate that I feel like I'm always in second place. And the worst part is, I know I'm robbing myself. I should be living in this joy, this anticipation. I should be talking to my friend about paint colors for the nursery, comparing baby name lists, laughing over how clueless we both are. But I'm not. Instead, I'm sitting here alone, stewing in a bitterness I don't even want. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't know if I'll unblock him, or just let the silence grow. I don't know how I'll explain this to my wife, or if I ever will. All I know is that I love my wife, I love our baby, and I'm going to give them everything I've got. But some part of me still aches. Not because he did anything wrong, but because I don't know how to stop feeling like I'm living in someone else's shadow, even when I'm supposed to be basking in the light of something so beautiful. The next day, something in me shifted. Maybe it was the weight of all I had written and confessed to myself. Maybe it was the reality of the ultrasound appointment looming, or maybe I was just finally tired of carrying that heaviness in my chest. But either way, I woke up knowing I had to start fixing things, not just with my friend, but with myself. I still couldn't bring myself to talk directly to him about everything. I'm not sure if I was afraid of how he might react, or just ashamed to say the words aloud. Ashamed that I could harbor such ugly, petty feelings. So I didn't explain everything, not the jealousy or the childish sense of competition that had wormed its way into my thoughts. But I did apologize. I sent him a message that morning. Something simple. I told him I was sorry for how I'd been acting, for how cold and distant I had become. I said that some personal stuff had been weighing on me, and it wasn't fair to let that affect our friendship. He responded with grace I probably didn't deserve. He told me he appreciated me reaching out, that it meant a lot, and that he knew something was up but didn't want to push me. We didn't talk long, but for the first time in a while, there wasn't tension between us. There was just space, and the faint warmth of old trust beginning to resurface. After that, I finally told my wife everything. Not just about my behavior, but about the deeper reasons for it. How I'd felt overshadowed. How I'd let insecurity turn into resentment. How I hated that about myself, but didn't know how to shut it off. And God, she was incredible. She didn't judge. She didn't shame me. She listened. She hugged me. And then she helped me see the truth, that we only get this one shot. This one moment, this brief window to bask in the miracle of creating a life together. And I was letting mine slip through my fingers because I was so focused on what someone else had. She was gentle, but honest. She told me that maybe I needed help untangling all of this in my head. And for once, I didn't argue. I told her I'd already booked an appointment with a therapist, and she smiled at me like I'd done something brave. That felt nice. It felt like progress. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. The ultrasound. I walked into the clinic with tempered expectations. I told myself I was doing this for my wife, that it was important for her, and I was going to be present because that's what a good husband and future father does. I thought I'd see a few vague images on a screen, hear a bunch of medical jargon I wouldn't understand, and then we'd go home with a couple printouts for the fridge. That was all. What happened instead was nothing short of profound. When the technician applied the gel and moved the wand over my wife's stomach, the room filled with static for a moment, and then there he was. My baby. My tiny, moving, living baby. I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't just a still image. It was a full 3D moving display, almost like a hologram. The doctor tilted and moved the image like we were viewing a little sculpture. I saw arms, legs, a head. It waved. It moved. Then the sound came. That heartbeat. That impossibly fast, strong rhythm thudding out into the room, like some primal drum. It didn't sound like anything else I'd ever heard. It sounded like hope. Like truth. Like a message from the universe saying, "This is real. This is yours. Wake up." I felt everything inside me snap into focus. All the noise about my friend, all the bitterness, the comparisons, the anxiety. I couldn't even remember why it mattered. My baby was alive. My wife was glowing. And I was in that moment, fully and completely, feeling something I didn't have words for. Something sacred. I squeezed my wife's hand so hard she looked over and smiled, and I knew she felt it too. Whatever else we'd gone through, whatever doubts I'd carried, I was here. I was ready. I wanted this more than anything. Later that night, I lay in bed just staring at the blurry black and white ultrasound printout on my nightstand. I thought about all the times I'd let my friend's success, his timing, his possessions make me feel like I was behind or not good enough. And I realized I was never behind. I was just on my own path. Maybe he always will have the nicer camera or car, or even the louder stories. But I don't care. This little heartbeat we heard, that's mine. That's the measure of my success now. And it doesn't matter what anyone else has. I'm still going to therapy because I know there's more work to be done. This isn't the end of the journey. But I feel like I've been cracked open in the best way. I've remembered who I am and why I started this family in the first place. And as for my friend, who knows? Maybe one day I'll be able to tell him the truth. Maybe I'll find the words to explain how insecure I felt and how it took becoming a father to shake me out of it. Or maybe I won't. Maybe some things are meant to stay between you and the version of yourself you've outgrown. But for now, I'm just holding on to the sound of that heartbeat. It's all I need. And every time I hear it in my memory, I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. If there's one thing I've learned through this entire experience, it's that insecurity has a quiet way of turning joy into jealousy if you let it. I love my friend. We've always had similar interests, shared milestones, and navigated life side by side. But somewhere along the way, I started seeing his successes as a reflection of my shortcomings. It wasn't his fault. He was just living his life. But every time I had something good, he somehow ended up with something just a little better. And when it came to something as personal and meaningful as becoming a father, I guess I wanted that moment to finally be just mine. So when I shared our pregnancy news and he responded with, "Looks like our babies will be friends," I felt crushed instead of happy. It felt like even this special moment was being mirrored and outshone. I hated that I felt that way. I hated that I couldn't just be happy for both of us. But the truth is, I wasn't. I became distant. I shut down. I blocked him after a comment that wasn't even malicious. I just couldn't deal with the comparisons anymore. But after some serious reflection and a long conversation with my wife, I realized what I was doing. I was poisoning a beautiful chapter of my life by letting my ego speak louder than my heart. The turning point? Hearing my baby's heartbeat during the ultrasound. That sound shattered every petty thought, every insecure feeling, and reminded me of what truly matters. My baby, my wife, our future. I apologized to my friend. I owned my behavior. I booked a therapist appointment to keep working through the deeper stuff. Because if I want to be a good father, I have to model what it looks like to face your flaws and grow. The moral? Don't let comparisons steal your joy. Life isn't a competition. And love, especially for your child, should always be bigger than your pride.